Hey y'all, it's Missniecytv and I'm here to do a review for the Shy Season 6, Episode 10. The episode starts off with Victor giving a speech on the importance of mental health, and he talks about how he wish he had somebody to lead him in the right direction and to teach him about mental health, and he reveals that he wants to open a mental health center on the south side of Chicago. The FBI is in an abandoned junkyard where they're inspecting the car where Q's body was put into when Duda shot him, and Victor drove the car. The FBI agent opens the trunk and they find something and they're like, jackpot, what I think they found was Q's body, and they're gonna run it for fingerprints. And after Victor's speech, Gemma's dad approaches him and he's like, if you use your voice in the right way, you could run for mayor. After Victor's speech is over, he's in a parking garage and he's sitting in his car. The next thing we know, we see Victor getting yoked up and having a hoodie put over his head, and he's dragged into a van. Definitely had to be Zay and Nuck to do this, because then we see Victor and he's tied up and he's talking to Duda, and Duda was like, did you try to kill me? And Victor was like, if I tried to kill you, I wouldn't miss. Then Duda gets in his face and he's like, luckily you weren't the shooter. Victor headbutts Duda and Duda punches him in the eye. While Emmett and Keisha are spending time with little Ronnie, Emmett tells Keisha that Duda wants him to take Alicia out. Emmett lets Keisha know that everything will be okay, and Keisha's like, you can't promise that. And Emmett's like, look, let's just go out and have some fun and get back to us, because we haven't been out in a while and we really need to get back to when we used to have fun together. Drake is doing a photo shoot for his clothing line, and the model happens to be Kenya. And Drake is like, I'm surprised you even answered the call since you got all this money. Kenya is like, I don't have money, my dad has money, and I'm not on his payroll. But the way that Drake was looking at Kenya, he looks like he's attracted to her and he wants to do the same thing that he did to Kevin to Papa. Because you know that Papa used to talk to Kenya, but they stopped talking after his dad died. Lena has decided to go to college, and she's sitting on a lecture being taught by the dean artist, who happens to be Dwayne Wayne, and he's talking about the importance of finding your own voice. Drake asked his parents to watch all his kids while him and Keisha go out for the evening, and of course they say yeah, but tell him whatever you do, don't make another baby tonight. And they also ask him what's going on with Duda, and he's like, I got everything under. It's time for the men's circle meeting, and Rashad is talking about the stuff that he's going through with Deja, and Jamal's talking about how hard it is to find a job as a fellow. Victor comes to the men's circle meeting with his busted eye, and Marcus asks him, is he okay? And Victor's like, I'm not, but it will be soon. Victor ends up having a conversation with Rashad, and Rashad asks him, what happened to your eye? He's like, me and Duda just had a talk. Rashad is like, with his fist? And Victor's like, stop staring at my eye. Rashad is like, I can't stop staring at it because it's staring at me. When I tell you, I hollered, laughing. Rashad finally tells Victor about what happened with him and Deja, and how he sent a text to Tierra and how they ended up sleeping together. And Victor's like, when did that happen? And Rashad is like, Valentine's Day. Victor does not care at all, but he's like, you could have told me. Emmett and Keisha go out and they're having fun, dancing and drinking and having a good time. Their time is interrupted by Dante, the same one that Tiffany wanted to have a polyamorous relationship with Emmett. Dante is subtly flirting with Keisha, and Emmett's not having it, so as Dante, Emmett, and Keisha are talking, Dante's date walks up, and it happens to be Reagan Gomez, aka Zaria from Paris. Reagan is playing Candace, and Keisha have a conversation, and Candace is letting Keisha know that she is not exclusively dating Dante because Dante doesn't feel the need to own anyone. And Candace lets Keisha know that she has a lot of guys coming after her. Keisha is just over the whole party scene and she's ready to go home. Meanwhile, Emmett is over at the bar having a conversation with Dante about Duda, and Dante tells Emmett, don't start nothing you can't finish. Emmett and Keisha decide to go home after having a long night of partying, and as they're sitting home, they're eating pizza and watching a movie. Keisha's like, is this what our life turned into? Sitting at home eating pizza and watching movies? Emmett's like, I would rather do that with you any day than be outside partying. And the liquor must have started in Keisha's system because she wanted to get down to business, and as they're getting down to business, Emmett's like, well, let me go grab the condom real quick. Keisha's like, you don't need it, just be careful. I'm like, girl, Emmett doesn't need no more kids, and neither do you. Emmett goes to pick up the kids from his parents' house the next day, and as they're outside, Darnell realizes that Rashad has been sleeping in his car. So he asks Jada, could Rashad stay at the house? Jada is reluctant at first, but then she agrees. Also, Rashad needs to get some tint on his car, because why are you sleeping in a fishbowl in the middle of Chicago? Rob is confronted by Nuck in the parking garage with the gun to the back of his head, and Rob is basically like, do what you gotta do. Nuck is like, you ain't scared to die? And Rob is like, it is what it is. I would like to keep my life. And Nuck is like, well, if you want to keep your life, I need to cut in on your weed business. And Rob is like, oh, okay, we got a deal. but he has to go back and tell Tiffany what he just did, and Tiffany is not going to be happy. Then we see Bakari and Lena, and Bakari tells Lena that he has to make this drop, and Lena is like, what are you dropping off? Bakari is like, I don't ask no questions. Lena is like, look, I had a great time in class today, and I could ask my teacher if we could sit on one of the classes. Bakari does end up going to the lecture, and he has a great time, and he gets very inspired, and they end up talking to Professor Gardner after class. Bakari does really want to be in the class because that's how inspired by the lecture that he was. But Professor Gardner says that he can't break university policy rules. Professor Gardner lets Bakari know that he does offer tutoring in the evening after class if Bakari would like to come to that. And of course Bakari agrees. He's like, don't be late. Bakari does wind up showing up a little late, and Professor Gardner's like, the deal's off the table. And Bakari's like, look, if you don't help me, I'm gonna end up dead or in jail. Professor Gardner does end up letting Bakari in, and they have a conversation. He's like, tell me your story. Bakari's like, where do you want me to start? Professor Gardner's like, from the beginning. Professor Gardner ends up giving Bakari a journal and telling him to write his thoughts down in it every day. I'm happy that Lena is encouraging Bakari to turn his life around, and I know that Pastor Stanley Jackson will be very happy. Rashad and Darnell end up at Alicia's house to fix some stuff, and Rashad and Alicia end up having a conversation about their lives and how Rashad went to jail and Alicia's brother's dead now because of his life in the streets. Alicia and Rashad end up having a very flirty conversation where it leads to Alicia giving Rashad her number. I know that this is all part of Alicia's plan to get Rashad on her side to help her take out Duda, and Rashad's not realizing that. Rashad, have you not seen the thin line between love and hate? You don't mess with Brandy. Emmett goes over to Alicia's place where Rob and Tiffany are staying, and he's telling them that he wants to buy Duda out. And Alicia overhears this, and she's like, how much will it cost you? Emmett's like, I don't know. Alicia's like, well, when you find out, let me know. Rob is like, you sure you want to do this? You don't want to mess with my mom and her money, because if you mess this up, you'll have a problem with her, but not only her, you'll have a problem with me too. We have Duda and Bianca, and Bianca's lavishing Duda with all his accomplishments that he's done for the city, and how he's had a great life and what he's done for lots of people. Duda's like, yeah, I may have done all that, but I've also changed a lot of people's lives for the worse. And while he's having this conversation with Bianca, he's over there texting Tracy, trying to get back with her. Tracy's like, leave me alone, and I'm hoping that Duda realizes that Bianca's talking about him in the past tense, like he's not going to be here anymore. Rashad goes out to this bar, trying to look for some women to hook up with and try to have a conversation with them. But he's not having any luck, because the first girl thinks he's just looking for a rebound girl, and the second girl is scared of her ex. Rashad ends up having a conversation with all the guys, and he ends up telling them about Deja. Marcus is like, what happened between you and Deja? He avoids the conversation because he doesn't want to tell Marcus that he was the one that slept with Tiara, which led him not being with Deja anymore. Speaking of Deja, Rashad goes over to Deja with some flowers, trying to apologize to her, and Deja's not trying to hear it. Rashad is like, look, I love you and I don't want to lose you. Gemma and Brittany are in the studio and they're working on some music, and Gemma's not happy and she's blaming it on the music, but it's actually because Brittany has a girl sitting in the studio. Gemma's upset about it because she likes Brittany, but she just doesn't know how to say it. Gemma winds up getting upset at Jake because Kenya was one of his models for his clothing line. And Gemma was like, why didn't you ask me? Because, like, you've been spending too much time with your girl Brittany, and you wouldn't have time. Plus, Kenya entered my modeling ad, so of course you would. Gemma, you can't even be mad at Jake because you haven't even told him that you kissed Brittany yet. Rob tells Tiffany about the deal he made with Nuck, and Tiffany doesn't like it at first, but Rob is like, this is the only way I can stay alive. And of course, Tiffany agrees. Rashad ends up going to Alicia's house to fix her locks, and he's like, didn't you need those locks fixed? Alicia's like, yeah, but it's late. She could fix them in the morning. I'm like, so Rashad, you gonna be staying over at Alicia's house? Emmett tells Keisha about his plan about Duda and how Alicia's gonna give him the money, and how he's gonna put Alicia and Duda against each other. Keisha tells Emmett that she's not going to jail for him, and how he's playing with fire and he needs to be careful. It's late at night, and Victor receives a knock on his door, and it's Quincy, and he's with somebody. He's like, who's this? He's like, it's your lawyer. Victor's like, what, I need a lawyer? He's like, my name is Alonzo Lafayette, and come with me. He's like, what, I need to come with you? Alonzo basically tells Victor that they found his DNA by Q's body in the car lot where Q's body was placed at, and if he doesn't have a lawyer to help Victor prove his innocence, Victor could go to jail for the rest of his life. Everybody needs to keep their eyes and their ears to the streets and keep their head above water. Let me know what you guys think about the episode. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on bell notifications. Bye!